Hi, it's Anne here, and today's video is going to be a little different. I haven't done a video like this, I don't think. Maybe I have. I think I've done like a similar video where it was like full face, but this video today is going to be all about fall feeling palettes. A few weeks ago, I was looking for dupes on shades for another palette, and so I was pulling all my palettes out, and I was just like, oh, I miss this palette. Oh, this is a great fall palette. And I was like, I was getting in the mood. So I thought, let's do a video on that. Let's talk about some of our favorite fall palettes. Some of these palettes are palettes that I feel like are transitioning from like early September, mid-September, and then some are more like definite like October to me, or maybe even like October, November. I feel like there's different vibes through fall. I feel like early fall, we're still, well, it was like 30 degrees here last week, this past week. So it's been kind of like extra hot, bizarrely, but we're kind of starting to get a bit of cooler weather, get that bit of crispness, and then you get like when you have to start wearing sweaters and then jackets, and I'm good with that range. Once we get to November and we have some of the like cold, rainy days, those days with sleet, that's when I'm like, okay, can we just skip to like some snow and then go back to spring? Like, can we just rush through this part? So anyway, I'm blabbing on here. I picked 10 palettes. There were a couple others that I kind of pulled in and out, and a couple of these are like I said, they're like cusp fall palettes. So I'm going to start off with the 5. These are in a semi-particular order. 5 that are like transition-y type to me, and then 5 that are definite, like when I pull them out, I'm like, yeah, this is a fall palette to me. So I'm going to start off with this one. This is the Tarteist Pro To Go palette. For me, this is actually more of a summer palette because I travel with this a lot, and I tend to travel more in the summer. But like when I look at the colors, I'm like, man, this is very like fall vibes. And everyone that I know that has this palette really, really enjoys it. I feel like it suits a lot of different people. Particularly this like rusty shade here, very fall-like. Just do a couple quick swatches. We'll do some swatching. I will maybe throw up some pictures of swatches as well, and maybe some pictures of eye looks. There's some swatches of this guy. Like it is very fall-like, and I just never think about it as a fall palette because it's more of a summer palette to me. I feel like this is like an August. It's a very August palette to me. It's the warm sunset. I think of like summer sunsets, and for me that's like August. The second palette might not be an obvious fall palette, but I feel like this is a great transition palette. It's the Too Faced Born This Way, the Natural Nudes palette. Yes, the Natural Nudes palette. And if you kind of look at it, I feel like there's 2 halves to this. I feel like this half feels very spring-like to me, and then this half is very fall-like to me. I feel like it's a great transition. Like, it's a very multi-seasonal palette. I mean, it could work for any season, really. But I was like, yeah, I definitely feel like I'm going to want to use some of these shades over here that I don't use a lot of warm eyeshadow, I'll be honest. Which a lot of palettes have warm eyeshadow, and I'm like, I feel left out sometimes. I just feel like with my coloring sometimes, I don't always like the warm tones on me. But yeah, I just feel like these shades in here definitely have like a fall vibes. And when I think of fall, I'm always thinking of like oranges, rusty colors, gold. That to me definitely says fall right there. And it's a great quality palette. Again, it's one of those palettes, like, if you don't have it, you might want to get it. Again, wait for it to be on sale. If you have other stuff that's similar to it, then, like, I wouldn't bother. But if you're looking for, like, a great everyday palette that you can just pull out and not think too hard about, I feel like that's a great one for that. The next palette, again, is maybe not full-on fall, but I feel like there's fall touches to this. This is the BH Cosmetics Romantic Nomad palette. It's a 16 shadow palette, but they're like super teeny tiny. They're like a size of a dime. I think this is such a cute palette, and it's great for travel. Where I feel the fall vibes are is sort of these deeper sort of jewel tones in here. I feel like some of these deeper tones, like this row here, these shades here. So again, it's similar to like that nudes palette where you have like a transition. Like this could work for spring and it could work for fall. I feel like it's a good seasonal transitional palette. Like this dark green really screams fall to me. There's this like dark blue in here, this dark purple, and again, this sort of warmer brown tone. And these are just mattes. I'm just swatching these mattes. They're not going to swatch the greatest, but it's a good little palette for the price of it. I'm not even sure if you can get it anymore, but like that's very like September to me. I feel like some of the muddy, deeper tones feel September or like November for me. I don't know about you guys, but that's how my brain works. It just feels, yeah, I'd like to like take some of these colors and then pair them with like maybe a shimmer from Cleona or something like that. I just feel like that, yeah, to me, this is like a back to school color range. That's how I feel about that. And the palette that inspired this actually was the Jewels and Gem palette from Oden's Eye. I did get this in the summertime and I used it a lot in the summer, and I was like, kind of wish I had this in the fall, because I feel like it's more of a fall palette to me. And again, I would say like a September or November type palette, like leaning from summer into fall, or like a cooler, like, you know, it's a cloudy day and I just want to wear some like deeper tones that are a bit more muted. This has a lot of that, like in the mattes. The shimmers I feel like are brighter. The shimmers can work with a lot of different palettes, but I feel like the mattes they'll have that gray undertone to them, which again screams fall to me. So let's just kind of like pick a couple shades here. I did a whole video on this, so I don't want to like beat this horse to death. I hate that saying. But again, I'm just going to swatch some of the mattes here. And again, these are like bluey gray mattes, which again, just kind of rainy fall day. That's what this kind of says to me. It's a nice, softer, you know, muted type color, but they have a lot of color to them. They're very interesting shadows. I did talk about though in the video that the mattes tend to be a bit patchy. You kind of have to work with them. They're not the easiest to work with. They swatch lovely though. But yeah, I just find on my eyes, and I think it's the shape of my eye too. Like I have a really deep set eye. I think if you have more of a smoother, like a lot of people have more of like a puffier eye, or like a smoother, like it doesn't go in, there's not a big indent, it might apply differently. I just feel like with my eyes with the deep set, sometimes the color gets sort of stuck in the crease there. It's one of the reasons why I don't use a whole lot of dark eyeshadow as well. And the next palette I actually wore yesterday, and I forgot to take a picture of it. Again, may not scream fall to a lot of people. I feel like this does scream winter to me, but I feel like it works really well for like a fall evening out. Again, it's cool tone, but you have that like golden color in here. It's not super cool toned. I feel like the shimmers in here are not super cool tone, but the mattes are a bit more. But again, you got a couple shades right here that are a bit warm tone. Just deepness, again, this sort of like fall leaves with like a dark cloudy sky color story, like definitely makes me feel like this is a fall type palette. Again, I wore this last night. It's such a nice palette. Sorry, I need to wipe off some of those swatches a little bit better from the last palette. They really stained my fingers this time. So again, just picking a few shades in here that just feel sort of really, really fall colors to me, with the sort of some of the warm, some of the smoky. Like, I'm going to be repetitive here, but that's the whole point. The whole point is these all have a vibe. They all have a similar fall kind of vibe. So the top two there are more like that smoky, and then the bottom two are a bit more of the warmer shades in there. That gold shade's like the warmest shade in that palette. It's a very warm palette, or a very warm shade. I feel like it sticks out like a sore thumb actually in that palette. It's a bit of an awkward shade for me to use with the rest of the shades in that palette, but yeah, really, really nice shadows in that palette. A great like fall date night palette. Not that I go on those. What is a date? I know there's a fruit. Is it a fruit? I think it's a fruit. So those are the first 5 that I definitely feel like are transitionary, and this next one's sort of like the in-between. I couldn't decide if it felt very transitionary or very like fall screaming to me. But this palette, the BH Cosmetics Zodiac palette, if you have this, if you still have it, if you're like me and don't get rid of things, pull this baby out, because holy crap, I was using this the other day, and some of these shimmers, like, they are banging. These shimmers, like, there was a reason why this palette was so good, and the quality for me is still there. But again, there's a lot of like really nice, like this whole half, like you have like this sort of winter half here, and then to me this half, like from this purple like across here. This half is all like fall. It's a very fall scheme on this bottom side. I'm gonna swatch. I want to swatch all the shimmers because they're so good. But I'm gonna swatch 2 shimmers and 2 mattes. But again, just very, very fall, beautiful. Like, oh my God, these shimmers, the metallics, the mattes. This is an amazing palette. Again, like I said, if you have it, pull that baby out. I still have seen it. I want to say it was a few months ago. Maybe it was a bit longer now, but it has been in like Marshalls and Winners still. So again, if you don't have it, that's another one I recommend picking up. The only thing I don't like about it is this packaging. I've definitely considered depotting it out of this package and putting it into like a smaller magnetic, that's the word I'm looking for, palette, because it's just kind of big and bulky and I don't like that. That's one of the reasons why I don't pull this palette out. But I think if I repurposed it into a more reasonable sized package, I would probably use it more. But yeah, the quality for the price, you can't beat that one. Oh, BH Cosmetics, we miss you. I miss you so much. Speaking of BH Cosmetics, I also have this guy. So yeah, that's what, three BH Cosmetics palettes in this. There was another one that was almost in here and I didn't put it in because I was like, okay, this is maybe too much BH Cosmetics. Again, this one to me is just, it's a very fall palette. There's a couple of odd colors in here, like this blue kind of throws it off and this pink. So this one could kind of be transitionary, like you could use it, I feel like, again, in August, September, even November. Like, I feel like this works all through like August, September, October, November. Like, I feel like this is a great, again, when I see this palette, I think fall. I'm like, this is fall, a fall scheme, works great. Again, we've got like that olivey green color. We've got like a rusty, mustardy type orange in there. We've got like a shimmery brown color, a shimmery, this is more like an old gold kind of color. So yeah, like when I saw this palette, I'm like, yeah, this is definitely, or when I think of this palette, I feel like it's a fall palette to me. That's when I want to use this particular palette. And again, the quality of that one, I feel like is really good. I did do a comparison between this one and the Zodiac, and this quality on this one was maybe slightly less good, if that makes sense, but it was still pretty good. And again, for the price, you can't beat it. I don't think I've seen that one in the stores for a long time, but I got mine from like Winners or Marshalls or TJ Maxx, or what's the other one? TK Maxx if you're in the UK. Next one is an oldie but a goodie. Anybody remember this one? This is the Kathleen Lights Morphe palette. It's the only Morphe palette I think I have. And again, very fall. Like this is fall. This is PSL in a palette. Yeah, it's just, I can't even say anything else about it other than maybe that green. But again, that green kind of maybe transitions you through to like December-ish, like early December, or again, like the September if you want to have a bit of, you don't want to just go super warm. You want a bit of pop of color. But like these rusty, I love these mauve rusty colors. I'm just going to swatch like 4 of those mattes. This palette for me is getting a little old. Like the quality on this is starting to go down, and I don't think it was like that when I first bought it. Maybe it was, but it's hard to tell. But I feel like it's starting to go on me, but I'm still keeping it around because I really enjoy these shades. I feel like it's a palette that has kind of got lost in my collection. I feel like I don't use it nearly as much as I should use it, especially this time of year. So yeah, my intention is to sort of keep all of these palettes out somewhere visible so I remember to use them over the season. Otherwise, I'll forget about them. I'll gravitate towards like the Too Faced Natural Nudes. That's an easy one for me to gravitate towards because I can just throw it on every day and not think too hard about it. Especially, I've said this, like, I feel like a broken record. I'm back in the office a little bit more right now, and I don't want to think too hard about what I'm putting on like my makeup because I'm in a rush. Whereas I miss COVID times because I used COVID times to like really play with makeup. Every day I could do something a little interesting, or most days, because I didn't really feel like I mean, I was just on my own. I was working at home on my own. Even if I was on a Zoom call, which I barely ever put camera on before, I still kind of don't put the camera on very much now. But yeah, I just feel like in person, I'm trying to be a bit more subtle, if that makes sense. And again, like I said, mostly it's because I'm in a rush. I don't have the time to sit and play with things the way I did before. So the next palette's one that's maybe not my favorite palette. I'll be honest, this one's on a chopping block for me. I'm going to maybe use it this season, and I think I'm probably going to let this one go. It's a lovely palette, but like I said, I'm not a huge warm tone eyeshadow person. It's Violet Voss Creme Brulee fun size palette, and I mean, you'll see it's very, very, this is PSL. This is like pumpkin pie, harvest season, very, 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 it's beautiful shades, beautiful quality, but I feel like for me personally, it leans very deep. Like there is this one shade obviously over here, but it is a very deeper palette for me, and it's sort of a one-noter and not something I wear a whole lot. And I definitely have these kinds of shades in other palettes, but again, it's a really nice quality palette. I like the size of the palette. If this is your jam, like you will probably really, really like this. It's just maybe not my jam. And again, like the yellows, the golds are very yellowy. That's what I'm trying to say. I lean towards more of that old gold if I'm going to wear a gold. I'm not a big yellow eyeshadow person. I'm just going to swatch mostly the shimmers in this. I don't have enough fingers to swatch all the shades that I want to swatch. But again, I'm pretty sure I have all of these palettes. I have photos from last year when I did my palette roulette. So if I have those, I will put those up as well. But yeah, like this is just, it's pumpkin. It is pumpkin season with that palette. It's definitely like almost the number one palette for me for a fall palette. I definitely think of fall when I look at that palette. I feel like my hand is like orange now because I have so many like orange rusty shades that I've been swatching. And then out of my collection, when I think fall, if anybody's going to say, what palette are you going to think of when you think of fall? This is the one. Like this was the first one I thought of fall for me. This is the Gingerbread Extra Spicy palette. It's maybe not quite as, like, the last one's definitely like orange. This one has a bit more variety. It is the eyeshadow that I am wearing today. So I am wearing this shade right here, which is called Cinnamon. I hate that name, but I love this shade. It's a beautiful shade on my crease. The base is the Merit Shadow in Studio. And then I have Candy Queen on the lid with a little bit of Cookie Cutter in the inner corner. And then I do have a little bit of Cookie Call on the outer corner as well. So this is what I have on my eyes today. But yeah, this is like, when I think fall in my collection, the first palette I'm going to think of is this one. It just screams fall. It screams fall to me. You've got that mustardy yellow in there. You've got oranges. You've got warmth. But you've got a little bit of variety too. You've got this blue color that so many people love to throw, like the Morphe palette with the green. Like there's always a random, but I feel like this one's a good wearable one because you've got some of these lighter shades that sort of help. It doesn't go as hard as this in terms of warmth for me. There's just a bit more depth to it and not quite as like orange, like not quite as pumpkin. Again, let's do some swatches here very quickly. Again, I think of sort of two main color stories when I think of fall. I think of this sort of rusty, orangey type shades, or I think of those like cooler, muted, gray tone shades. I feel like those two color stories to me are what I gravitate towards for fall, what I want to wear for fall. I don't want to wear those in other seasons. They're just not, my mindset. And that's one of the things I love about makeup and the seasons. I don't know about you guys, but for me, when the seasons change, it makes me look at my collection in a new fresh mindset of like, ooh, what am I feeling now? What am I feeling that feels the season, the vibe of the season? I was trying not to use the word vibe, but I can't help it. Yeah, and so like it's so fun to go look at my collection with new eyes, with a new mindset, with a new, it just makes it feel fresh again, even though I'm not buying anything new. Like I've had all these palettes for a while, except for the Oden's I won. I'm excited to play with these again. I'm excited to go back to these palettes and be like, oh yeah, I really love this shade. Oh, I love the texture of this one. I love the way this pairs with this. And I find new things with these all the time, especially the ones that I haven't used as much as some of the others. So yeah, I'm super excited for these palettes. I'm super excited to like lean into some of these warmer orangey tones as well as some of the more muted tones. Yeah, so that's it. So I'm curious to know, do you have any of these palettes? Are you going to pull them out this season? I'm curious to know in your collection, what's your number one, like this is my fall palette. When I'm ready for like an October warm sun but crisp air, I'm gonna go out and like go to the pumpkin patch or pick some apples. Like, what is the palette that you want to wear for that? What is the shadows that you want to wear for that? Or maybe there's even some single shadows. I didn't even look at my single shadows for this because we could have gone down another rabbit hole with that. I don't have a whole lot of single shadows, but I have enough that probably could have been another rabbit hole. So yeah, I hope you liked this video. If you did, feel free to give a little thumbs up down below. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you subscribe to my channel here in Toronto, Canada. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you sometime soon. Bye.